All right, we are really pleased to have Senator Roy Blunt in the studio with us, a busy man today at the NRA convention. Thank you for coming in, my friend.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. So it sounded like you were ready to give Hillary Rosen a little L.
Yeah, exactly.
And Ann Romney's such a nice person. I know she and the governor both, and she is a very nice and very accomplished woman. And frankly, from my point of view, anything that puts her in the front of the campaign as part of that campaign discussion is probably a good thing for my side and a good thing for Mitt Romney.
I totally agree, and she was all over the television yesterday, and she's such a great presentation whenever she's on TV, and I'm glad the conservatives all just pounced on this right away because they noticed the hypocrisy, this whole Obama war on women thing that he's accusing Republicans of doing. Suddenly, it's like, well, wait a minute, though. That's pretty warlike to say that a woman who raises 5 boys hasn't worked a day in her life. That's kind of crazy.
It's pretty ridiculous. And, the whole war on women, women are impacted by the gas pump and the economy and seeing watching that gas pump go from $40 to $50 to $60 to $70. They bear such a load in our society, and to try to fabricate these issues, particularly when we went back to the discussion you and I had the last time I was here on just not making people do things that their faith says they're not supposed to do. Whether you and I. Whether that's our faith view or not, was something that the American people have almost figured out. I've seen quite a bit of polling on this lately, and people say, well, of course you shouldn't make religious institutions provide things that they preach in the pulpit of their churches is wrong, or they preach in the synagogue or the mosque is wrong. Of course you shouldn't make them do that, and people figure that out. And the war on women is really bad economic and bad energy policies and health care policies that won't work. It's a war on everybody, but we all know that women in our society bear a huge load, particularly single moms out there trying to make ends meet. And we ought to talk about the things that really are impacting the country. And I think because of these gas prices and the Supreme Court case and other things that are just happening, that the issues are shifting back to the real issues that affect people at their kitchen table and in their bank account.
Senator Blunt always, whenever you see him, he'll always ask you about your kids and your family and that kind of thing. And then we then turn it to say, hey, what about your family? It turns out that your son, Matt, is going to be – your son Matt's going to be introducing you today at the NRA
Matt Blunt's on the NRA board, and he's going to introduce me today when I get a chance to speak to our friends at the NRA. And they are our friends, and they endorsed me in the Senate campaign. There's 74,000 people here this week as part of that NRA convention, which is their biggest convention ever. Last time they were in St. Louis, they had 69,000 people, which was the biggest convention ever up until then. So lots of people coming to St. Louis. In this case, lots of people coming back to St. Louis, and they like being here. This is a great place for them to have a convention. They're bringing lots of money with them to spend, and it may be all the vacation many of them are going to take this year, but they're here in St. Louis doing that. And the amendment, the Constitution matters, the Second Amendment matters, the First Amendment matters. They all matter. And I saw the other day where Ruth Bader Ginsburg was asked somewhere about a new constitution for a country, and she said, well, I wouldn't – this is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's on the United States Supreme Court, so I wouldn't recommend modeling after our Constitution. I'd look at maybe the South African Constitution or the Canadian Constitution. That frankly bothers me a little bit that people who have sworn to uphold the United States Constitution are around the world saying, there are really a whole lot better ways to do this than we figured out in America. I just don't think that's true, and I don't think the American people think that's true.
Breyer does the same thing. I guess there are a couple of them on there that always look to other countries. I can't figure that out.
International law,
yeah,
or some other standard. And the fact is that the Constitution is an incredible document, and we'll see what the court says. By the way, Jamie, about Constitution and this mandatory health care that you have to buy health care insurance or the government can penalize you. I think the court will decide it's unconstitutional, but I'm equally opposed to it, whether it's constitutional or not. There are really 3 questions about health care, I think. One is it constitutional? And if the answer is no, we shouldn't do it. 2 is is it a good idea? And if the answer is no, we shouldn't do it. And 3 is, can we afford it? And even if it was a good idea and we can't afford it, we shouldn't do it. And I think it happens to be no, no, no. And most Americans think it's no, no, no. Let's do the right things for health care instead of the wrong things.
Senator Roy Blunt, thanks for thinking of us and stopping in. I love the fact that when you became our new senator, you didn't forget about us. And we constantly have contact with you. We really appreciate it. Thanks for always being there and getting your hands dirty the way you've been doing it. And Senator Roy Blunt?
Oh, by the way, something I meant to say. This week I got to the 115th county, the last county in Missouri I hadn't been to in the last year as a senator. So now I've been to every county in our state 2 times in the last 2.5 years, and you learn a lot when you're out there talking to Missourians.
Well, we're glad, and we appreciate you as always. Senator Roy Blunt, everybody.